Hi, my name is Glenn Murphy. I am one of two presenters of this video series on how to market and harvest your woodlot for profit. My co-presenter is Dr. Reen Visser from the University of Canterbury. In video 6, Reen will look at safety considerations and your responsibilities as a landowner while harvesting is taking place on your property.
If you talk to people about forest operations and or timber harvesting, one thing you're sure to hear about is safety and the importance of people keeping safe. The reason for this is that logging, timber harvesting, remains one of the most dangerous work activities that we have in New Zealand. We currently have approximately 5 fatalities per year, and of course also a larger number of serious harm accidents that occur in any given year. So it is really important that we stay focused on making sure that our operations proceed in a way that they are as safe as possible. And if we avoid all of the main hazards, identify them and work towards avoiding them, we can actually have a very safe operation within our forest. The actual rules with regard to safety are encompassed within our Health, Safety at Work Act, HSWA. Was enacted in 2015. Some of those core principles within the law is really that everyone is responsible. And the idea is to keep everyone safe while at work. So the real focus, though, is on preventing these serious harm incidents that may occur. There's certain terminology that they use within the law that you should be familiar with, even as a woodlot owner. And the term that's used within the law is PCBU, which stands for a person conducting a business or undertaking. As you are the owner of the woodlot and you are engaging with professional harvesting services, you become a PCBU within the scope of the law. And so you have some very specific legal obligations within that. The best advice, because logging is potentially such a dangerous business, is really to engage with a professional forester, a professional forestry company to manage that operation. They will have established health and safety plans and procedures and often work with very professional forest harvesting teams, contractors, to successfully harvest your forest. However, in terms of your proactive role, it really still remains your responsibility to engage with their health and safety plan. And in particular, one of your responsibilities is to notify them of hazards that are particular to your farm, your woodlot, your forest area that they are going to be working with. One of the ways that you can do that is really just take the time to make yourself aware of some of the common logging risks that are associated with timber harvesting. And it is fair to say that many of the serious harm type accidents still occur with people that are engaged in manual activities. So our forest industry is very much trying to go mechanized, that is, put people in machinery to protect them, but there's still often tasks, especially within woodlots, that may be carried out by hand. Examples of those are shown at the bottom of this slide. For example, what we call motor manual tree felling, or cutting the trees down with a chainsaw. Motor manual processing on the landing, so that's bucking up the trees 2 log lengths on the landing. And also, if you are working on a steep slope with a cable logging operation that's not working with a grapple type extraction system, you're going to have people out there on the slope. They're called breaker outs or choker setters, and they can also be at risk, especially from the cables and the trees that might move on the steep slopes. The good news is there's actually a lot of safety resource information available and often published by WorkSafe. So there's this really neat little document shown on the left-hand side there called Managing a Safe and Healthy Small Forest Harvest. So that's really an excellent document that can be downloaded for free that you should really read through. Some of those key steps or key points that they have within that is really well aligned with what we've been covering in this woodlot series. planning your harvest well before you start it, key safety measure. Engage with competent professionals, work with other PCBUs to help you manage the risk. So that's yourself together with a forestry company, together with a contractor, together with a trucking company. All of you will be identified as PCBUs, and it's really to monitor health and safety arrangements and improve of them where possible. So these are some of those legal obligations set out as very pragmatic steps where you can be involved. If you are engaging with a professional harvesting crew, then they will be very aware of the document shown on the right, which is an approved code of practice for safety and health in forest operations. This is what we call a quasi-regulatory document, so it's technically not the law, but it's an agreed set of practices between our industry and, in this case, the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment, or the government representatives. So these rules are really there to be followed. They're quite detailed. So there's not really the expectation that you are aware of all of the specifics. The logging crew will be aware of them, but you should just be aware of the fact that they will be working towards these standards that are in place. Some of the common risks that bear thinking about as a woodlot owner, and remember this is your responsibility to inform the harvesting crew of these hazards. For example, if you're on a farm, there's typically other users of the roads and tracks that the forestry company may use for access. This could be other contractors, maybe you've got fertilizing going on, maybe you've got some livestock work going on, but it could also simply be your children out for a horse ride or a motorbike ride. It is important that the forestry company, trucking company is aware that at certain times of the day, they may be also using those tracks. Other examples include things like power lines, especially if there's low hanging power lines coming across your farms. Fences, especially older ones that are still running through the forest. So fences become a very specific hazard if they're in the forest, because if a piece of forestry equipment is moving through the forest, catches on that old fence and starts to pull it, of course that can have an effect up to many hundred meters away, and if anybody is standing nearby, they can be quite seriously hurt by that. So if you know of old fence lines running through your forest, make sure the contractor is aware of them. Other things are like tracks. Often they're perfectly fine for your motorbikes and or tractors, but they're not great for the type of forestry equipment we deal with. Any things like offal holes, or in certain areas of the country's toma holes, a person in a forestry machine may not see that very readily. So if you're aware of them, just let the contractor know, and this meets your obligation in terms of informing them about known hazards. Another good thing to think about is what we use is the safety triangle concept. So clearly we're trying to avoid serious harm injuries, but they are often quite exceptional, and it takes a series of exceptional circumstances for somebody to get hurt. So the better thing to focus on is near-miss type accidents. So if you see little things go wrong, it is often best to intervene at that point in time on those little things to avoid a serious injury or a first aid injury from occurring. So if somebody's not so stable on a slope and you see them slipping and sliding, that is the time to take action, time to stop them, because at some point in time, somebody slipping and sliding on a slope will result in a rollover. They may not get hurt, but in every 20th rollover, somebody might be quite seriously hurt from that type of an incident. Again, there's lots of really good applied safety resources available. One thing that the forestry industry uses quite extensively, and you can access as well, is the safetree.co.nz. And if you jump on that website, there's actually resources, more documentation. But two things I'd like to familiarize yourself with is the safety alerts, as well as some really neat videos that you can jump on and just get a bit of an appreciation of what forestry is all about, but also what can happen to lead to an accident, and as such, how can you help manage and or enact some steps to avoid those accidents from occurring. So safety alerts is really just learning from things that have gone wrong in the past. So typically companies will publish an alert when something has happened. Hopefully nobody's gotten hurt. It could be a near miss. For example, that tree that busted open when the person was cutting it down, or in this case, somebody was hurt, somebody was involved in machine maintenance, and that can often injure people as well. So the good thing about putting people in machines is that we don't have some of those immediate hazards like trees falling on them and hurting them, but now we have different hazards, and often that is getting in and out of the machines, but also machine maintenance are some of the new concerns that we need to be aware of when we're working with mechanized operations. Look, in summary, in terms of safety during harvesting, be engaged. It is your responsibility, okay? You cannot ignore the fact that you've got a logging operation in your woodlot. You have a responsibility as a PCBU. By engaging with the logger, by engaging with the forestry company, you are discharging those responsibilities, and especially with regard to identifying those hazards. Okay, so be familiar with those resources. They often are very, very good. They're written in layman's terms, very pragmatic, very applied. And again, if you can identify and communicate those hazards, that is the major undertaking that you'd be responsible for as the woodlot owner. So often people can stress a lot about safety, and it is important to keep safety in mind and really keep it to the fore during the operations. But I think if you're doing everything right, you should also not forget to enjoy your harvest. It really is an exciting time, a lot of activity taking place, and it's the culmination of that whole growing cycle of your forest area. So do enjoy it. Okay.
This concludes video 6. In video 7, we will look at your obligations under the Resource Management Act and how to protect the environment. If you have any questions, please direct these to the email link shown below.